time for the main event. It's the Shoe Shine. ¿Qué onda, vatos locos? Damas y caballeros, it's your boy Dave in the 702. Coming back at you for the only boxing podcast you really need to be listening to on YouTube, guys. It's the Shoe Shine. All right, as you guys know, I usually do this show with my co-host, Drew Evil, all the way from the city of brotherly love. Philly Irish will be joining us shortly. He said he had a few things to do, that he should be joining us right around the 8 o'clock hour, 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So until then, I am solo. Shout out to Santiago Media joining me in the chat. We had some pretty interesting PBC boxing midweek, all the way from the land down under. I'm talking about the return of Keith one-time Thurman. Yeah, after he was supposed to fight here last March right here in Las Vegas, guys. Of course, you know, I was there for that thing with D-Style Boxing from YouTube to see Tim Tszyu take on Keith one-time Thurman. And even then, a year ago, I'm like, damn, I mean, Keith one-time Thurman, an opponent moving up in weight from welterweight to 154-pound division. I mean, what has he got left in the tank? And then, of course, he had that pretty serious injury. And I'm like, well, you know, that's what happens as we get old. It just comes with the territory, getting into our late 30s, which I'm already well past that, guys. And it's been an entire year. Now, Keith Thurman said, you know, great things happen to him when he travels. He loves to travel. And he went down south. He said he had no problem with that. In fact, when he says great things happen to him when he travels, Keith one-time Thurman went down. Actually, he said he met his wife while traveling across the world. So shout out to he. Are you a boxer? We report on the sport of boxing here. But yes, I have done a little bit here. Chief Keef gets it done. His hairline hanging on by a thread. But then again, who isn't when they start to get older? Yeah, he had a sensational knockdown there. You see the knockdown down under against Jarvis, whose one career loss comes against Liam Paro, who briefly held the 140-pound title, guys. I did not wake up in time. Actually, I woke up, I thought I was waking up early enough to watch it, to catch it, and then I had read fight's over in just 3 rounds. A fighter that I have deep interest in, that I've been watching develop, is a sparring partner of Tim Tszyu, Mateo Tapia, El Tijuanero. And somehow, Mexicans just, I mean, man, us Mexicans, we get across the world. We just immigrate everywhere. Somehow, Mateo Tapia, El Tijuanero, immigrated to Australia so long ago that you would think he was an Australian with his accent and whatnot. But Mateo Tapia, a genuine Australian Chicano. Shout out to Fonzie. Yeah, El Tijuanero, Mateo Tapia, who had a very tough fight where he faced, I saw him get knocked down in his Florida undercard performance where Tim Tszyu was brutalized by Martiziliev. Well, Mateo Tapia, a middleweight prospect / contender, maybe contender now, had a really tough fight and he walked away with a very tight win. He's still undefeated. And in this one, he fought this guy Vorobev, a Russian, also an immigrant. It's like Australia has a lot of immigration. He kind of looked like the guy from the Rocky movies. He came out awkward. He came out guns blazing, Vorobev, in this fight. And Tapia was able to settle nicely. And he just had a beautiful counter. He countered the guy perfectly and was able to finish him. So he comes away with a very nice knockdown. And in the main event, obviously the Australian that I just pointed out, he didn't do well at all. The Australian gets knocked out by Keith one-time Thurman in just 3 rounds. Shout out to Tinkerbell dropping a little bit super chat love. Very much appreciate that. $9.99. Damn, Tinkerbell. Appreciate that very much. Wiley Coyote, Fonzie 619 in the house. Fonzie, did you get your tickets to the fight yet, man? Speaking of tickets, I was just on the phone with a friend earlier today who was asking me if he was probably going to be able to get good seats for the PBC card coming up in just 2 weeks. I'm talking about Sebastian Fundora, the unified super welterweight champion, 154-pound champion. Speaking of Tim Tszyu and Keith, one-time Thurman, 154-pound division. But that fight, he was tripping. He's like, hey, I'm coming to town. Am I going to be able to get some good seats, man? I'm worried. And I gave him the number to my ticket broker friend, Jim Boone. And Jim Boone said, man, he got plenty of good seats for that. In fact, you could just go on the website and get them. What does that say about Sebastian Fundora, who hasn't fought since last March, since he beat Tim Tszyu? That's some serious inactivity for a champion. I love the guy. I've met him personally. I think Fonzie in the chat met him and his sister as well. Just a sweet guy, a great guy outside of the ring and inside the ring, a beast, but he hasn't fought in a year. And ticket sales are probably pathetic. And it's no easy task filling up the Mandalay Bay. So I don't know. Is anybody in the chat thinking about going to see the Fundora fight, which is going to be in just 2 weekends? And that features, of course, Jesus Ramos, great kid also from the Arizona. Jesus Ramos has a last-minute replacement. Shout out to SB. Thank you for joining us. Fonzie says, not yet, but everything is set up for that weekend to be there. And that's the top-ranked card coming up with Fresno's heavyweight contender. Richard Torres will be headlining a card at the Palms Casino, I believe, beginning of the first weekend of April. And that's a smaller venue. Palms is an amazing venue to catch a fight here in Las Vegas. If you get an opportunity to come to a fight and you see that there's one at the Palms or at the Cosmopolitan or at the Virgin, oh, man. Fonzie says, I saw that Thurman match, and now he's calling out Ryan Garcia. Speaking of Ryan Garcia, guys, let me just bring this up quickly. If you didn't hear, Ryan Garcia is in the news again. He and Oscar De La Hoya, Golden Boy Promotions, are being sued for a lot of money. Let's take a look at this really quickly. I just want to make sure I get it correctly. But Fanmio, a promotional company based out of Florida, was setting up a fight with Ryan Garcia as it was going to be over the Christmas. It was going to be over Christmas or around the New Year's. An exhibition to keep Ryan Garcia busy. They were going to put him in the ring with Rukia Ampo, a pretty big kickboxer in Japan. And Ryan Garcia took that opportunity to make that fight with Fanmio himself. Fanmio saying that Ryan Garcia faked an injury in December, faked a wrist injury, that he went to Los Angeles-based, I think, C9 Medical, which is a major hospital, and he had an orthopedic guy take a look at his wrist, and he got a doctor's note. The doctor's note said, you know what, we need to run more tests, but I suggest that you stay off punching and doing anything that uses your wrist for several weeks. And Ryan Garcia pulled out of that exhibition at the last minute. Well, Fanmio had already secured a venue, had already promoted the exhibition, and spent a lot of money doing so. They claim they spent over $1 million on promotion alone for this exhibition match, and Ryan Garcia was a no-show. What's good, Warlock Boxing? Appreciate you up in here. Let me add you here to my list of moderators. Thank you for dropping in. So Ryan Garcia, from what I remember, and the lawsuit is saying, is that Ryan Garcia probably went back to Oscar De La Hoya, and Oscar De La Hoya had him fit. He said, hey, you can't fucking sign up to fight exhibitions without me. You can't do that. You can't sign contracts without me. I represent you as not only as your manager, your promoter and your manager or whatever and whatnot. And these things have to be approved by me. And so therefore, yeah, exactly. Papi Oscar said, hell no, you ain't going to do that fight. And now it's being said that Ryan Garcia is potentially going to earn over $10 to $20 million to fight Rolly Romero in Times Square. It's that good old Turki Ali Sheik money, guys, in Times Square coming up. And Fanmio wants to get paid. They want to get paid, so they filed a lawsuit today against Oscar and Ryan Garcia because they know they're going to get the big money. We're going to be talking a little bit about what's going on with what we know so far about Dana White entering the sport of boxing, aided and abetted by Turki Ali Sheik, TKO. And I've got some clips about that. As soon as Drew joins me, I'm going to get into that because a lot of people in the boxing world, the promoters, whether it's Golden Boy, Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn, a lot of people are starting to realize that they've got some serious competition, and they may be wondering if their fighters are going to be safe. Because, a lot of fighters that do get an opportunity to sign with a major promotional company, oftentimes it's just for at most, Top Rank will sign people for 3 fights. 3 fights and you're a free agent again. That shit don't come with health insurance. There's no union in boxing. There's no union in the UFC. You get what you want. You get what you want to fight in the UFC. You start at $5,000 a fight or whatever it is. The minimum fight contracts are with them, It's like working for Amazon or being a contractor for one of those Amazon delivery drivers. You ain't even working. It's shit pay. Thanks, guys. Okay. All right. So we're gonna talk about that. But let's talk about Keith One-Time Thurman again really quickly. Keith One-Time Thurman right there below. Knocks out Jarvis, a guy who fought, like I said, Leon Paro at 140 pounds. Brings up this guy Jarvis, who really only has that 1 loss. And Jarvis has had a lot of domestic opposition in Australia. His resume looked good. He had a lot of knockouts. But Keith One-Time Thurman, in his late 30s, he gets the banging knockout. A beautiful, beautiful uppercut. Go back and watch that, guys. It's available on YouTube, the entire fight. It's only 3 rounds, 9 minutes, 10 minutes of your time. Go watch this fight if you haven't. Fonzie says Canelo versus Crawford is going to be the first match in the TKO brand with Dana White. You're absolutely right. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and play an introduction to one of the guys that is being talked about in a lot of boxing circles. A lot of people are concerned about whether or not Dana White has plans with his influence of Donald Trump. Donald Trump, big supporter of the UFC, very close friend of Dana White. Will they overturn the congressional act that is one of the only congressional acts in the sports? It's basically a law, the Muhammad Ali Act passed in 2000. One that promoter Lou DiBella helped write the legislation on that to protect fighters across the U.S. It only stands in the U.S., but with what Dana White plans to do in saying that the belts don't matter. And if you didn't watch the press conference with Canelo Alvarez and William Skull, Turki Al-Sheikh told him to drop the fucking WBC belt. He said, put that belt away. He didn't let Canelo hold all his belts. He's got a problem. He's got a problem with the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman. Apparently now, Turki Al-Sheikh has been giving us these incredible fights, unification fights, undisputed heavyweight fights, undisputed light heavyweight fights. We're going to get undisputed super middleweight probably if Canelo gets past Skull. But apparently, once Dana White gets in business with TKO, and the very first fight, Fonzie just mentioned it, the very first fight with TKO, all the belts are going to be on the line. There's no doubt in my mind that Canelo Alvarez is going to defeat William Skull for Cinco de Mayo. There's no doubt in my mind, but that'll give the opportunity to someone like Terrence Crawford, who's an old school fighter, that belts and legacy, statements, legacy, history books matter to someone like Terrence Crawford, who's going to get an opportunity to become a 3-division undisputed champion, undisputed in the 4-belt era. That means something to Turkey. It doesn't mean something to Turkey necessarily anymore, apparently. It sure as hell won't matter shit to Dana White, but it does matter to fighters like Canelo and of course, Terrence Bud Crawford. Guys, I'm going to play this quick clip here. I want you guys to react. This is Ari Emanuel, used to be a sports agent, somehow manages to become one of the most influential sports people in the world, owning the UFC and the WWE, his company. Let's take a look because they're going to be behind TKO. And they're going to be the ones that are going to get Canelo Alvarez and William Skull on Netflix this September. Let's take a look at this clip.
I think this man runs the world. Every company that we do work with, he's in charge.
This is courtesy of the Pat McAfee Show, guys. Sorry about the loud music. It's in the clip. Pat McAfee Show.
How would you describe who you are to somebody?
I was an agent for 4 years approximately. Before 95, I started the company Endeavor. Endeavor is an agency. It's a marketing company. It's a licensing company. It's a lot of things. So
Endeavor.
We bought a bunch of companies. One of them was the UFC. And then we took UFC and we merged it with the WWE.
Endeavor buys the UFC.
Sport maybe that's different than the entertainment business.
When we moved into the sports world, we could own the asset as opposed to
they own the asset.
But how has
they
the
own it now.
Netflix era been so far?
Shows performing, So we're thrilled. I think they're happy. The numbers are up.
How does Netflix become the one that the WWE goes with?
First started talking about NXT, actually, and then it just immediately
Wrestling,
moved
UFC.
to Raw. A year and a half ago. We're on a Zoom. It's all approved. We have to have a conversation with Ted Saran.
All right, that's enough of that guy. I hope not to get a copyright off that. I'm reacting to this short from YouTube, guys. Ari Emanuel owns the UFC. Endeavor owns the UFC. They own WWE. And now TKO, which is going to be the next boxing promotion. Now, they say it's not going to be a league. Obviously, a league means that they'd have teams from different cities and whatnot, like the NFL league, like the baseball league. This is not a league. It's basically a new promotion company, but they want their own belts. And to have their own belt, they would have to circumvent the Ali Act, which was written in 2000. Furthermore, they can't act as both manager and promoter in boxing. Now, you could do that in mixed martial arts, in the UFC and whatnot, but you can't do that in boxing because of the Ali Act. Now, they say the belts aren't going to matter, that they don't want to deal with the 4 sanctioning bodies, WBO, WBA, IBF. They say they don't want to deal with that bullshit because they're going to have their own belt. But legally, they can't have their own belt. I mean, maybe they can use Turki Ali Sheik's ownership of Ring Magazine and just say that everybody who fights on our promotional vehicle has a chance to win the Ring Magazine belt, which just means nothing. The Ring Magazine is prestigious. It used to be prestigious. You was thought of that if you've got the Ring Magazine, you're the cream of the crop in that weight division. Turki Ali Sheik now owns Ring Magazine. Maybe that's what they'll give you, is a Ring Magazine belt, which again is not a belt that is actually goes with the sanctioning bodies. This, the sanctioning bodies we talked about. Sanctioning bodies are responsible for rating fighters, for giving fighters rankings across the world. So we're looking at this promotional vehicle, TKO. They're all going to be in-house fighters, according to Dana White. So far, what we're hearing is that he doesn't want to work with other promoters. That, how's that going to work when if you're going to start in September, who else is going to fight on the card? A bunch of guys that just got out of the national amateurs? A bunch of guys that maybe just competed in the Olympics who haven't been signed by Top Rank or PBC yet? He's going to have to work with other promoters initially, especially if we're going to get our first show in September. So I'm still waiting for Drew, guys. Appreciate everybody that's in here. Don't forget to hit that like button. All everybody in here. I appreciate everybody that rocks with me and comes in. It's not easy for me to talk on my own. I don't generally like to do it, but I appreciate you guys being here for it. Now, let's talk about Keith One Time Thurman again really quickly. Keith One Time Thurman comes away with a big win. He looks great. He shook off that ring rust. He looked rusty in round 1, but now he's got a knockout. And really, he only with PBC, No Limit Boxing. We're probably going to immediately get now this fight, which was supposed to be scheduled in 2024, March of Las Vegas. We're probably going to get the Keith Thurman versus Tim Tszyu fight after Tim Tszyu takes care of the fight. I believe he's got a fight against Joey Spencer of PBC to shake off his ring rust, shake off everything, the cobwebs that he suffered under the brutal beatdown of champion Murtazeliov. Tim Tszyu needs a comeback win of his own. If he gets past Joey Spencer in just a few weeks, he's going to get a shot at Keith One Time Thurman, which is just basically, and he'll probably do it domestically. I'm going to presume he's going to do it in Australia, but Tim Tszyu needs to win these next 2 fights. He definitely needs to beat Joey Spencer, who's already been beaten by Jesus Ramos Jr. on PBC, which was on Fox. Incidentally, guys, PBC used to, remember the good old days when you could watch a free fight on PBC? Watch Jesus Ramos Jr. on Fox in the middle of the day. I think he beat him, Joey Spencer, on Fox, which was a very good fight between 2 of PBC's top prospects, contenders now at 154. Joey Spencer will be making that trip down south to fight Tim Tszyu, and Tim Tszyu gets past him. We're going to get that fight. Keep One Time Thurman, now maybe 37 years old, fighting Tim Tszyu, who looks to somehow make a path for himself to become a 154-pound champion once again. Will he get a chance to avenge that loss? Will he get a chance to avenge that loss, that brutal, bloody bloodbath of a fight that happened in March last year right here in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile against Sebastian Fundora? That would be a great rematch because, to be honest, Tim Tszyu was winning those early rounds, and it looked like Tim Tszyu was going to be on a path to possibly hurting the gentle, tall giant in Sebastian Fundora. It looks like, Sebastian Fundora has been knocked out before, even before becoming a two-belt champion. He was knocked out by Brian Mendoza of Las Vegas. It can be done. He can be chopped down. The guy who he's fighting, I don't doubt that he's going to try to win this title from Sebastian Fundora, but I look for Sebastian Fundora to use all his God-given gifts. When I talked to him last March, he said he told me he was going to use all his God-given gifts to beat Tim Tszyu, and that included elbows, even if they're accidental, that cut and sliced a gash on the top of Tim Tszyu's head, and so be it, man. That's boxing. Tim Tszyu, unlike Gervonta Tank Davis, who took that knee, Tank Davis said, I got chemicals in my eye. I got the braid chemicals in my eye. Hold on, I need a timeout. Hold on, let me go wipe my face. Oh no, it's not a knockdown. I just need to get this shit out my eye. Tim Tszyu fought valiantly with blood everywhere in both eyes and every crevice of his face. He didn't take a fucking timeout. I got a lot of respect for Tim Tszyu. He's a throwback fighter. That's right, SB. Hit that thumbs up, guys. So waiting for Drew. Let me just check my phone to see if Drew's going to join us because I know Drew had a lot of feelings about this. It's already passed. Let me see. Where's Drew? Might be doing this show by myself if he doesn't come in. Wile E. Coyote says, truth be told, Dana White and anything to do with Trump, I'm out. Well, they're very close friends. Now, eliminating or reforming the Ali Act would take some serious political muscle. First of all, they do have a Republican-led Congress. And it's not like right now with all the problems that the U.S. has economically, trying to do something that can never be done. They're never going to fucking balance this budget in the U.S. We have a lot of bigger fish to fry in this country. We have Trump's tariff policies that he's trying to unilaterally pass. We don't know what effect it's going to have. We already seen the stock market tank with just the threat of these tariffs. In the beginning, the initiation of these tariffs. We've got so many problems that really they probably would just sneak that shit into a spending bill, and say, here's the bill. It's been rewritten for let's reform it. And maybe it'll be attached to so much other shit that the Senate will just pass it. Hey, good to see you, F Donuts. Shout out to F Donuts, guys. Check out my boy F Donuts. He's got a new channel. Go out there and support him. But yeah, that's how you get shit passed in America. You just slip that shit in a spending bill, and maybe people won't even flinch an eye. And the fact that Dana White and Trump are so closely aligned together, I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't count it out as a potential to have the Ali Act either reformed or eliminated. Now, guys, I want to turn you guys on to a very important interview that I watched. The entirety of this interview today is somebody that I respect very much. It's Lou DiBella, big time promoter. Lou DiBella, New York promoter, also now owns I think a couple minor league baseball teams. So he's kind of moving away. He used to be an HBO television executive, HBO boxing. Spent many years. He actually helped draft the legislation, which was the Ali Act. Well, he went on Ariel Helwani, his podcast, and did a fantastic interview. Let me quickly get you guys the picture so you guys can watch the entirety of this interview, and I'll play a clip of that interview. But it was a good 1 hour interview discussing the entrance to professional boxing of Dana White, who's talked about a long time that he's wanted to come into it. Let's see, which one of these clips is it? Let's just go ahead and begin this small clip here.
This was inevitable, right? And frankly, Turkey making the four major guys, all his little peons,
He's talking
it made
Oscar.
this much more doable. And now you
Eddie
have
Hearn.
a company capitalized on the stock exchange to 26, 27 million, depending on how you measure it.
Right.
With UFC alone, capitalized 11 billion, 26, 27 billion,
UFC,
11 billion,
WWE,
and economically supported by the deepest pockets in the world.
Saudi Arabia.
I mean, they're pretty much well set up for this. This was inevitable, right? And frankly,
There's a small clip from that. It's the best interview that I've listened to in a very long time. Of course, DiBella basically explaining what he foresees. He actually thinks, I'm gonna guess that he thinks that it's gonna be successful from the interview, listening to the entirety of it. I think he really thinks that Dana White is gonna make a splash, and even he who helped write that legislation, the Ali Act, it seems that he's on board that it needs reforming at this time. That, a lot of the problems that we have with boxing in America, that it's no longer, he said, pop culture. Boxing is no longer pop culture. It's been a fucking struggle for me for 3 years to even get 2,000 subscribers. I know that there's some major boxing channels, and shout out to all of them. Boxing Voice, Showbiz the Adult. These people are anomalies. They're fucking stars. They got that charisma that have made them big major channels with 600-700 people listening to them every day. I haven't been blessed with that magic. For me, people look at it as like, who the fuck wants to talk about boxing? Why does he care so much about boxing? It's a niche sport in America. But I remember the first time I got a warehouse job, remanufacturing equipment coming out of a trade school. That's what we talked about every Monday morning at the cooler. Early 2000s at the water cooler. That's all we was talking about. Oh, do you see the fight on ESPN on Friday night? Did you see HBO? Oh, shit. Did you see this fight? Did you see Oscar versus, Vargas? I mean, that's all we talked about. Back in the days, early 2000s, boxing was still pop culture. And DiBella says, well, it ain't. Boxing is in a bad place. It's no longer pop culture. And he thinks that Dana White, with what he's done with the UFC, with the backing of Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia and the U.S., that potentially they probably will be able to overturn or modify the Ali Act, which will give a lot of opportunity for Dana White to smash his competition. And when I talk about his competition, this is saying that he's going to smash Oscar De La Hoya, Top Rank, Bob Arum, bless his soul, but he's 94 years old. Where will the future of Top Rank, who's based in Las Vegas, be when Bob Arum passes away? They're losing their television deal on ESPN. Dana White has a solid ESPN deal, which they'll probably, from what I'm hearing, smaller fights on TKO will probably be on ESPN. They'll take that spot for boxing, putting on smaller shows that basically promote the major events that are going to have a Netflix deal. We're going to get that. I mean, Fonzie's absolutely correct. We're going to get that Canelo Alvarez fight against Terrence Bud Crawford on Netflix. Who's going to be on the undercard? Shit, I don't have a clue if Dana White is involved. Dana White's saying he would prefer not to work with other promoters. But a lot of fighters are still tied to other promoters like Matchroom Boxing. It's Eddie Hearn or Oscar De La Hoya. Speaking of boxers being tied up in free agency, where's Drew? Shit, I'm going to have to have a free agency for Drew. Is Drew a free agent? Edgar Berlanga this weekend, guys. Saturday, Edgar Berlanga, the return of Edgar. Some of you call it Edgar Berlanga. He's back. He's pissed. He is pissed. Let me read the story to you guys from Boxing News 24. Should I jump to that? No, actually, you know what, guys? I'm going to play this other clip really quickly. It's been years. This interview is not available on my YouTube page. I had an incredible 2-hour interview once upon a time in my life with Paulie Malignaggi on a different podcast network. And I didn't have the rights to that interview. And it was shocking that I was able to hold the attention of Paulie Malignaggi, someone that I had looked up to and admired his career. But I got to interview him once upon a time for almost 2 hours. It was a really funny interview, guys. Was not like what I typically do here on the Shoe Shine. It was very loose format. But you know, he's got a lot of opinions and very strong opinions. Let's play this clip from YouTube. This is regarding Dana White's entry into boxing.
Why would you align with a guy like Dana White, who has such a bad reputation for being a pig with the way he pays fighters? But I remember also when I sparred Conor McGregor, I remember getting out of the ring and going to get a drink of water at the
we all remember
where,
that.
They have it in the UFC PI, where I was getting something to drink because I just did 12 rounds of sparring, and I was just on my own. And he went out of his way to come up to me and kiss my ass. You know what I mean? He went out of his way to, oh, that was amazing work and so on and so forth. Only to then a couple of weeks later start with the lies and all this other stuff. So this is a very deceptive person, even in my experience. He's a very deceptive
Polly don't like him.
person as far as financials.
Oscar don't like him.
Fighters in the past. Yes, the UFC has gotten to a big position because you lock in fighters. You don't have this option in boxing. You can't lock in fighters to contracts and then you're the only game in town.
All right, guys. What Polly's talking about is the fact that, you know, the UFC model, you know, you're not going to get to fight people from back in the day. There used to be Strikeforce. You guys remember Strikeforce and Bellator? But Dana White doesn't play nice. Once you sign up, become a UFC fighter, that's it. You know, you're not going to go get to fight guys across whatever expression you want to use, across the aisle or whatnot. And in boxing today, as we know it, you know, we do get that sometimes. We do get the very best because the four sanctioning bodies might mandate that you fight this other guy, or there is a unification. The WBO and the WBC will say, yeah, let's get our two champions to fight each other. One of them might be from PBC. The other fighter might be from Matchroom. And voila, we got a fight, you know, and it appears it's a co-promoted event between two different promotional vehicles. But, you know, right now what we're hearing, Dana White is saying, nah, I don't want to work with other fucking people. I just don't see how that's going to be possible. Your talent pool is going to be extremely limited. He might, maybe he picks up Edgar Berlanga in time. Edgar Berlanga's pissed. Oh, he was in love with Eddie Hearn at first. Eddie Hearn got him the big payday, $10 million. $10 million, you know, that Eddie Hearn got him fighting Canelo Alvarez. And all of a sudden now he's pissed. He's pissed because he's the co-main this Saturday. Edgar Berlanga. Where was that story, guys? It's Boxing News 24/7. He's not a happy camper at all by any means. Edgar Berlanga says that he wants to look like the star that he is against Jonathan Gonzalez Ortiz this Saturday, March 15th, and that he's going to be entering free agency. You know, my 49ers guys, the entire team, they just let go of all the stars, everyone who's been battered. I don't know what the fuck the team, I thought they have the easiest schedule in football next year, the San Francisco 49ers, easiest schedule. And it looks like it's going to be all rookies, draft picks, and trade. The one opportunity they have to be a contender in football, and they've already fucking destroyed the team this offseason. I don't know what big moves they plan on making, but it's a rebuild team. And Edgar Berlanga is entering free agency like that. And most of the time, you know, with football, they want the fucking big money. Will Edgar Berlanga be introduced to Dana White? He's got to fight this Saturday, but he's already talking about leaving Matchroom and leaving Eddie Hearn. He's not content that he's going to be a co-main fighter. But what about let's talk about all those fucking times Edgar Berlanga was the main event at ESPN and his co-main fighter, Xander Zayas, looked a million times better than Edgar Berlanga, who was struggling going 10, 12 rounds without being able to knock out anybody anymore. There's a reason why Top Rank let him go. And that's because after his initial knockout streak ended, he looked like he was struggling with mid-level guys. And the viewership on ESPN dropped. People were like, fuck, it's like watching Shakur. That's why he got dropped from Top Rank. He puts in a gutsy, brave performance against Canelo Alvarez, and now he thinks he's the top of the food chain at 168. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. Dana White's going to be looking to sign fighters. So he might just pick them up. He'll try to pick up whoever he can who's available. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about Edgar Berlanga's free agency? All right. Also on that card, guys, I don't see Drew, so I'm not too much sure how much longer I'm going to go today. I played you guys those clips that were on my mind regarding TKO. But this Saturday, the main event, a guy who could possibly fight at 168 is Amma Williams, who lost to Shiraz. Shiraz just fought Carlos Adames, and somehow, with Turki Ali Sheikh screaming the scorecard, Shiraz got a draw. And Shiraz really upset Amma Williams. People were thinking Amma Williams was going to be a major middleweight star, but here he is, the main event this Saturday on DAZN, Matchroom Boxing, guys. And I was reading this article, which is crazy. But in the article on Boxing Scene, go out and read that article on BoxingScene.com, guys. He talks about dancing. Yeah, there's it's no secret. Stars, boxing stars like Lomachenko and Usyk, they got the moves. They like the Eastern European fighters. They got all their funny Ukrainian dances they do. But Amma Williams talking about his love for dancing hip, for taking classes. A boxer, a very good boxer. I think Amma Williams is very talented. Taking hip hop and spending 2 years with a private ballet coach. Listen, ballet. I knew ballet dancers growing up in San Francisco. He keeps talking about how it revolutionized his movement. Obviously, it's going to strengthen everything, your whole posture, your core, your legs and whatnot. But Amma Williams, 2 years with a private ballet coach, that's pretty fucking wild. That's pretty interesting. We'll see if it helps him this Saturday. Both of these guys on that Matchroom Boxing card, to me, they're stay busy fight, especially the fight that Berlanga has. Berlanga's fighting a guy who took 10 years off from the sport. Now Edgar Berlanga's going to fight a guy in his 30s who had probably the biggest, break in his professional career. That's a massive break. 10 years off. Fonzie says there's nothing wrong with dancing. Oscar De La Hoya did Dancing with the Stars. Hey, Oscar De La Hoya also had a private voice coach and was nominated for a Latin Grammy. By the way, Eddie Hearn can sing pretty good too, but Oscar's the one promoter that could say, how many of you got a Grammy nomination? I've heard that album. I did an episode one time right here. It's buried deep in our catalog here on the Shoe Shine on YouTube, where I talked about the album, and I think we critiqued and reviewed Oscar De La Hoya's album early. Shout out to Champy. I see you new in the chat. Virgil and Jesus Ramos are the 154-pound kings. I do very much enjoy both of them. Jesus Ramos will be fighting a last-minute replacement. And by the way, guys, Jesus will be fighting here. I was trying to interview him, but now that he's deep in camp and it's going to be too late, we've got interviews with him on the channel. But Schramm versus his opponent is from Argentina. It's going to be someone that you guys can go watch on ProBox. Guido Emanuel Schramm versus Vladimir Hernandez of Stockton, California. That was a fucking great fight. Go and watch that fight, because that's who Jesus is going to fight here in Las Vegas in just 2 weekends on a Saturday at the Mandalay Bay. Vladimir Hernandez knocked out Guido Emanuel Schramm, and that was kind of an upset. And Guido's been knocked out. He's had a couple of losses, but he's a tough guy. And he's awkward, and it is a last-minute replacement. So obviously, Jesus has been preparing for somebody else. But I trust deeply that Jesus is ready for whatever. It's like Virgil Ortiz, Champy. Virgil Ortiz is he's ready for whatever fucking style. Working out with Robert Garcia and the stable there. I have deep faith that Jesus is going to come out victorious in just 2 weeks. Yeah, Vladimir Hernandez. That, if you're talking about that one, that was a very impressive knockout. You guys can go watch that clip. Vladimir Hernandez KO, 6th round of Guido Schramm. But you got to give it to ProBox. I give it to ProBox. Tip my hat off to them all the time. They keep a lot of fighters in that stable busy, and a lot of guys that have fought on ProBox get amazing opportunities. Like Lamont Roach, who should have had the biggest upset of 2025. Should have been gifted. He's not gifted it. It was the other way around. Gervonta Tank Davis was gifted, and Lamont Roach, who is a ProBox fighter. Shout out to Roberto Diaz, who manages him. I believe he manages him. You got Angelo Leo, featherweight champion of the world. And on that card, that's right, Elijah Garcia. Shout out to Elijah Garcia's family, man. I remember talking to them because I live here in Las Vegas at the Opium Media workouts one day. His family's really cool, Christian family. And, there was a fight a couple fights ago. He came down with a really bad flu and he had to pull out of a card at the last minute. But Elijah Garcia is still a very solid middleweight prospect, now entering contender status, in my opinion. So we'll see how that fight sells, guys. I'll probably be there, Champy. If you're interested, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'll be there most likely, which would not be this Wednesday, but this actually should be this upcoming Wednesday, is media day at the Mandalay Bay. They should be doing a media day on Wednesday and press conference on Thursday of next week. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell notification. All right, guys, that is the, we talked about Matchroom this Saturday really quickly. Speaking of featherweights, and I love this division, this is big news, but featherweight champion Rafael Espinoza, the tallest featherweight there is in the featherweight division, 126-pound fighter, champion, stands at 6'1". He's going to be the co-main for the Cinco de Mayo card presented with Inoue at the top of the card right here in Las Vegas. T-Mobile Arena, Sunday, May 4th, will feature Rafael Espinoza defending his title against, oh man, I seen this guy fighting on Matchroom. This Latin kid went to the UK and put on a hell of a fight. Fighting another Latino kid. But at the top of the card is going to be Inoue versus Cardenas on Sunday, May 4th. And I just saw a tweet from somebody I follow on Twitter that I think it looks like tickets for the Inoue fight May 4th Sunday will be starting at around $250. Usually the nosebleeds for Canelo are $300. So it's a discount of about $50. We'll see. Inoue's fought here during the pandemic, guys. He's had 2 fights in Las Vegas when he was a smaller known fighter. And now they're asking a lot from him, but he's going to have a lot of movement behind him. He's got the Japanese. Will the Japanese descend on Las Vegas Cinco de Mayo weekend? Will they make that trip? You're going to have big money. You're going to have the Saudis helping putting on this card. Saturday, you got the Canelo Alvarez fight. And of course, Friday, you're going to have that super card stacked with Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney. Damn. Yes, Warlock Boxing, Cinco de Mayo Boxing is going to be amazing. That Friday card, if you didn't see it, I don't have the clip. I'll try to play it next Monday. But Teofimo's back at it again. Teofimo, who I got to meet last January at the Virgin Hotel in Las Vegas, man, the guy cracks me up. I'm not down with his racist bullshit that he said. And I'm glad that, Cigar Talk Boxing called him out at the press conference last week. I'm glad they called him out on his racist behavior. But, yeah, Teal's back at it again. He was sitting, somehow he booked the same first class plane with Devin Haney. And he put out a video today where he said, well, at least if the plane crashes, I can always use Devin Haney's nostrils as life support or a life vest or something. I mean, the Teofimo he's always got him, guys. Teofimo is coming up with zingers left and right. Devin Haney gave him both fingers. Both fingers. Let's talk about this one featherweight. We were talking about the featherweight division. Once upon a time, I thought that the dream matchup in the featherweight division for me was going to be Nick Ball versus from Mexico, Elvanado Lopez. Elvanado Lopez, man. The ultimate road warrior. He beat a good friend of mine, Andy El Tiburon Vences, who was fighting with Top Rank at one point. That was a pandemic fight, I believe, where, at that time, Elvanado Lopez was fighting at 130. He beat Andy Vences in a very close fight. Then he goes and destroys Gabriel Flores, who was the darling of Top Rank. Gabe Flores was signed by Top Rank at 17 years old. Destroys him. Destroys him so bad, Top Rank had to let him go. We just saw Gabriel Flores fight on Pro Box just a couple weekends ago, right? At one point, I thought, okay, Elvanado Lopez, he even beat Conlon. He even beats Conlon in Ireland. He goes everywhere and beats everybody. I'm like, he's got to fight Nick Ball, especially since Nick Ball did not get He got a draw against the PBC Mexican fighter. He should have been featherweight champion back then. Rafael Lopez is coming back, guys. He's been knocked out. He lost his title to Angelo Leo, former PBC fighter, now with ProBox. But Angelo Leo's going to Japan to defend his new title he got. Shout out to ProBox. Nick Ball takes on TJ Doheny. Does he look familiar to you guys, Doheny? Oh, shit. Fonzie's coming for the big Cinco de Mayo weekend. Yeah. Oh, man, we're going to have a good time, man. We'll have a good time. But if you remember Doheny, it's because he got his ass beat recently, very recently. That's the guy Nick Ball is fighting this Saturday. If you're out on the West Coast with me, you'll be seeing this fight sometime around lunch, 1 o'clock or whatnot. But Nick Ball is going to beat the shit out of this guy. Doheny's pretty rugged. I would describe this as a stay busy fight. He's going to offer some resistance, but just looking really quickly, to be fair to Doheny, he's up there in age. Late 30s. He's 38 years old. Just got knocked out by Noayo Inoue, and now he's fighting for a title. That doesn't make any sense. That don't make any fucking sense. Just fought at 122 and got knocked out by Noayo Inoue, and Nick Ball needs somebody to keep him busy. Lost to Sam Goodman of Australia, a very good fighter. Okay, lost to Mick Conlon in Belfast, Ireland. You know. Happy St. Patrick's Day, guys, to everybody who might be in Las Vegas this weekend or wherever you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I'll be sure to wear something green this Monday. Mick Conlon also beat this guy Doheny. And a really interesting loss that Doheny has was against California fighter Danny Roman. Danny Roman also beat him. Shout out to Danny Roman. So Doheny, stay busy fight. This is a completely stay busy fight, and I expect to see Nick Ball probably KO him. Wiley Coyote says, did Teal's dad get KO'd before for being racist, or was that cap? That's a good question, man. He's actually he's also very entertaining. I was surprised in person at how they can catch you off guard and be charismatic. At times they can come across cringe when you watch them. On other people's channels, platforms, you might be thinking they're cringe, but they do know how to turn on that East Coast charisma like that. Man, what happened to my co-host Drew? Was planning on doing a 1 hour solid show with him. We will be back on Monday night, guys, at our normally scheduled time. Been working out this thing with Drew because sometimes he's got a lot of shit to do. You know, he works a city job. He's tired. His East Coast time is late. So I'm thinking of... if he's not ready to come on, I'm just going to go live and he'll join us later on. I'm not sure what happened tonight, but Drew will be back on Monday. We'll talk about all these things developing, and then it's going to be a big week next week. Now I'm realizing Wednesday's probably media day. If I look at my calendar, right, that fight, March 22nd, that's right around the corner, is this fight here, PBC. I should be pretty busy next week then, trying to attend some of these events. Do I have that fight? Anyways, we'll talk about that fight coming up. The return of Sebastian Fundora, Jesus Ramos Jr. coming up at the Mandalay Bay right here in Las Vegas. I'm Dave in the 702, guys. I appreciate everybody who's been here. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you haven't, on your way out, I'll see you next Monday night at 7:30 p.m. Until then, peace out, everybody.